Not everything you tolerate is an act of love. Sometimes tolerance becomes the very thing that eats away at the relationship it claims to protect. From a Freudian view, the wounds that hurt us most are the ones inflicted inside the circle of intimacy. The tiny betrayals, the repeated dismissals, the manipulations that find their way beneath our defenses and lodge in the unconscious. In this video, I will name 5 parental attitudes you should not automatically forgive. Not because you are cruel or unforgiving, but because some harms demand elaboration before they can be transformed into genuine reconciliation. Before we begin, a quick word about language. When I say never forgive, I do not mean you must hold a permanent grudge or choose violence over reconciliation. I mean, do not reflexively smooth over what happened as if nothing occurred. Do not grant forgiveness as an emotional shortcut that bypasses the work needed to restore your dignity and to prevent future harm. If this message feels like it was written for someone you know, please like and share. It might reach a parent or an adult child who needs to hear it. A brief lens from Freud, without making him a prophet, but as a useful map. Freud taught us to attend to what hides beneath what is said. The unconscious keeps its records in symptoms and repetitions, patterns that return until they are seen. Repression is the pushing away of painful thoughts. Projection is when someone attributes their own feelings to another. Fixation is an arrested emotional stage where development stalls. These ideas are not magic. They are tools to understand why certain behaviors have a momentum that looks intentional and yet often springs from pain. But pain does not excuse harm. Knowing the mechanism helps you name it and decide how to respond. 1. Conscious repeated disrespect. Definition. This is not an occasional thoughtless remark or a one-off mistake. It is a pattern of deliberate diminishment, mockery, repeated interrupting, dismissive tone, sarcasm meant to miniaturize you. The hallmark is intent or consistent recurrence. The message sent again and again is that you are less worthy in the parent's eyes. Examples. A parent who habitually corrects you in public, turning private vulnerabilities into material for ridicule. A mother who repeatedly speaks over your feelings during family arguments, making you feel inaudible. A father who uses a mocking nickname despite your clear discomfort. Freudian frame. From a Freudian perspective, this can be read as a power test performed within intimacy. The parent uses the child's closeness as a stage where dominance is rehearsed. Projection may be at play. The parent cannot tolerate their own smallness or shame, so they locate it in you. Repetition compels. It insists the relational dynamic remain fixed. Somatic and psychic effects. Disrespect erodes dignity. It leaves a residue of shame that migrates into the body. Tightened shoulders, sudden blushes, a throat that closes when you must speak. Over time, it becomes a script. You expect to be belittled and begin to self-silence. The solution offered by many families, it's just the way they are, is a quiet resignation that grades down your sense of worth. Consequences for the relationship, trust phrase. Conversations become rehearsed minefields. The adult child learns to hide parts of themselves to avoid humiliation. The parent may feel justified, claiming frankness or tough love, but the relational currency becomes fear, not affection. Recommended stance. Name it. Say calmly and clearly, "When you speak to me that way, I feel diminished." Set conversational boundaries. Pause the interaction when the tone degrades. Insist on respectful language. You can require that disagreements happen without public humiliation. Make repairs a condition for ongoing closeness. I can be with you, but I won't accept being mocked. This is not punishment. It is preservation of dignity. Do not forgive this away simply because it comes from a parent. Vignette. Imagine a daughter who at every family dinner is the butt of a familiar joke about her career. She laughs along to spare the peace. Months later, she realizes the laughter was a shield. and that the jokes had taught her to expect derision. Saying nothing kept her in a loop of shame. Number 2 looks like care, but it acts like control. 2. Using guilt as a tool of control. Definition: this is the slow strategy of emotional leverage. It's not always overt blackmail. Often it's a cultivated posture of injury designed to elicit compliance. The parent makes you feel morally implicated for choosing boundaries, for living independently, for making decisions that are not aligned with their desires. Examples: subtle phrases like, "After everything I've done for you," delivered whenever you refuse a demand. Sudden withdrawal of warmth when you set limits, presented as martyrdom. "Fine, if that's how you feel," followed by weeks of coldness. Stories told to other family members that position the parent as the injured party and you as the neglectful child. Psychological mechanism. Guilt is a powerful social emotion. From a psychoanalytic view, it can function as a mechanism of domination when wielded intentionally. When guilt becomes the currency of the relationship, the child learns to do emotional labor constantly to restore peace. Projection may appear here as well. The parent projects their unmet needs onto the child and frames the child's autonomy as a moral failing. Effects on the person. Living under a guilt economy produces chronic hypervigilance and excessive caretaking. An adult child may spend energy managing another's feelings at the expense of their own life plans. It breeds exhaustion, a sense that your choices are always provisional and conditional upon someone else's mood. Consequences for the relationship. The relational balance tips toward coercive dependence. You may comply to avoid being described as cruel. Your life narrows to contain another's emotional climate. Authentic intimacy withers because it is consistently bought with concessions. Recommended stance. Name the manipulation gently but firmly. "I hear your pain, but I'm not responsible for making you whole." Reframe caregiving as a choice, not an obligation extracted by guilt. Where possible, move demands into clear, negotiable terms. "I can help in these ways, not these others." Refuse the role of perpetual sacrificer. If guilt is being used as a weapon, calling it out is an act of care for both parties. It forces events into the light where negotiation can begin. Vignette. A son postpones an art residency because his mother frames the choice as abandonment. "You know how much I gave up for you." He internalizes the message until he cancels his dream and resents himself for it. This third one is exhausting long before you can name it. 3. Role reversal, chronic dependence and guiltification. Definition. Role reversal occurs when the adult child is turned into the parent psychologically, or when the parent expects childlike caretaking that consistently sacrifices the adult child's autonomy. Childification is the process of making an adult emotionally dependent, requiring emotional rescuing without encouraging growth. Examples: a parent who calls multiple times a day, demanding reassurance, emotional labor, or constant problem solving. A parent who expects you to manage their emotional crises while refusing to accept help for their own chronic patterns. Continuous financial rescues offered without boundaries that prevent the dependent pattern from changing. Freudian interpretation. Here, the notion of fixation is revealing. Development stalls when one generation unconsciously freezes another into a stage that served the parent's psychological economy. The parent stays in a role of needing to be needed. The child is arrested in perpetual caretaker. Repression of the parent's own anxieties drives a transfer. The adult child takes on responsibilities that hinder their own maturation. Somatic and psychic effects. Caregiver burnout. Sense of arrested life progression. Resentment that simmers beneath supposed affection. The adult child may experience guilt for wanting distance and shame for resenting a parent who is ill or vulnerable. The body may manifest constant fatigue, sleep disturbances, and a pervasive sense of being pulled in two directions. Consequences for the relationship. The relationship becomes enmeshed rather than reciprocal. Your life may stall, plans delayed, relationships with partners strained. The parent's independence is never cultivated and the child's autonomy never fully develops. Recommended stance. Enforce boundaries that promote autonomy for both parties. This can look like scheduled calls instead of constant availability, refusing to be the only safety net for every crisis, and insisting on professional support for chronic problems. Allow natural consequences to help the parent face reality. We are not cruel when we refuse to authorize a dysfunctional pattern. We are encouraging responsible living. Accountability can be framed compassionately. I will help arrange care, but I cannot be your only source of emotional regulation. Vignette. A woman postpones buying a house because she is always on call to fix her father's finances. Over time, she recognizes that by bailing him out, she is preventing him from building skills. When she begins to say no, he calls her selfish, and she realizes the system has been protecting dependency, not love. Absence can wound just as sharply as presence. 4. Selective presence, emotional absence by convenience. Definition. This is the pattern of being present only when it fits the parent's schedule or interest. Showing up for good news but absent for needs, forgetting anniversaries, delivering cold, perfunctory messages in lieu of genuine connection. It's not active cruelty. It's a passive, selective withdrawal that signals you are not central. Examples: a parent who remembers birthdays only when prompted, a mother who offers praise when convenient but is emotionally missing during crises, a parent who posts warm messages on social media but fails to show up at meaningful real-life events. Psychological framing. From a psychoanalytic stance, absence that is unaccounted for produces a particular kind of psychic injury. Unlike active hostility, selective presence creates ambiguity. The child learns to doubt their worth because affection appears conditional and strategic. The unconscious absorbs this as a pattern. Affection is available on terms that often exclude your true needs. Effects on the psyche and body. This creates an unnamed melancholy, a low-grade grief of the type that has no clear closure. You may carry a sense that you are inconvenient to others. The body may show signs of quiet sadness, chest tightness, appetite changes, a sense of smallness. Over time, this shapes a relational script that expects emotional scarcity. Consequences for relationship. The parent is unpredictable in support, alternating warmth and neglect. This unreliability undermines secure attachment. You may find yourself code switching, being hypervigilant for affection, and then numb when it doesn't arrive. Recommended stance. Demand symbolic presence or reorganize expectations. Symbolic presence is the consistent, reliable sign that someone cares, whether it's a weekly call, consistent replies, or agreed upon rituals. You can ask for these things explicitly. If you want to have a relationship with me, I need you to respond to my messages within a reasonable time. Or, I need you at family events, even if they are inconvenient. If a parent consistently refuses to be present, consider reorganizing your expectations and invest in relationships that provide reciprocal support. Do not normalize absence as if it were inevitable. Vignette. A son waits years for his parents' attendance at a graduation, always told, maybe next time. The RSVP never arrives. The pain is not explosive, it is accumulative, a steady erosion of being seen. What makes this one the hardest is the intentionality masked as pain. 5. Weaponizing pain, transforming suffering into an instrument to humiliate or control. Definition. This is the most corrosive pattern. A parent takes their own hurt and turns it into a means of attack. Instead of owning the pain, they use it as ammunition, shaming, accusing, exposing vulnerabilities to punish, or weaponizing stories that should have been private. Examples: Public shaming of the adult child for past mistakes in family gatherings. Using private confession to manipulate, threatening to reveal secrets if you do not comply. Chanting your errors as proof of your moral inferiority. Psychoanalytic frame. In these moments, projection and displacement are central. The parent's shame or aggression cannot be permitted to land on their own ego, so it is projected outward. The family provides a safe target. The child becomes the repository. The more intense the parent's unresolved trauma, the more likely it is to be discharged violently onto an intimate other. Somatic and psychic effects. The child experiences shock, humiliation, and a fracture in trust that can feel irreparable. The body remembers in panic reactions, racing heart, dread leading to avoidance. Over time, such attacks can create complex trauma, hypervigilance, difficulty trusting even compassionate strangers, and a thinness in one's own sense of self. Consequences for the relationship. The relationship may become toxic. When a parent uses your vulnerabilities against you, the relational field is no longer safe for authentic exchange. Apologies may follow, but apologies without change are only continuations of the harm. The family narrative becomes a battleground where your dignity is expendable. Recommended stance: protect your integrity. This may mean a firm confrontation, mediated conversation, or temporary distance to stop the abusive cycle. It may require you to refuse engagement in any exchange that is designed to shame. Document patterns, if necessary, and consider trusted witnesses or family members who can hold boundaries with you. Seek external support, not as a promise of cure, but to anchor you in a broader reality where your dignity is recognized. Remember, refusing to accept violent emotional exchanges is not abandoning a parent. It is refusing to make yourself a sacrificial object for another's cruelty. Vignette. A mother threatens to post private family messages online to prove that her child is selfish. The child experiences public exposure of private wounds. The humiliation reverberates far beyond the moment. This is the hardest truth. We must name the behavior clearly and choose dignity over invitation to harm. Synthesis. The hardest truth and the possibility of repair. When we place all 5 of these attitudes side by side, a pattern emerges. They are not accidental acts. They are relational strategies that, whether conscious or unconscious, shape and sometimes damage the architecture of family life. Freud teaches us to see repetition as the mind's way of keeping score. But awareness alone doesn't dissolve the pattern. Forgiveness without elaboration becomes a bandage that hides infection. Before forgiveness can be authentic, there must be acknowledgement, responsibility, and a change in the relational terms. What does elaboration look like? It is not primarily intellectual legalism. It is the slow, honest work of naming what happened, feeling the impact, holding the other to account, and negotiating new patterns. It includes clear boundaries, sometimes mediated conversation, and a recognition that some harms cannot be fixed with a single apology. Elaboration may involve grief, and grief is not weakness. It is an honest folding of loss into your life. Boundaries save love. Saying no to repeated disrespect, refusing to accept guilt as a tool, insisting on reciprocal responsibility, demanding symbolic consistency, and protecting your integrity when pain is weaponized, are acts that preserve your psychological dignity. They are not vengeance. They are the scaffolding upon which a healthier relationship may be rebuilt, or if necessary, kept at a distance that protects you. Practical phrases you can use when naming the harm. When you do X, it makes me feel Y. I cannot accept that in our relationship. I will be here for you, but I will not accept being shamed or belittled. I hear that you are hurting. I cannot make your hurt my obligation. If you continue to do X, I will need to step back for my own health. A word about nuance. Parents are often wounded people too. They may act from fear, their own unmet needs or unresolved trauma. Compassion matters, but compassion does not mean tolerating ongoing harm. You can hold both truths. They are suffering, and you are permitted to protect yourself. If the pattern is persistent and harmful, consider a few options that are ethical and non-dogmatic. Bring a neutral third party to conversations. Look for family therapy if all are willing. Enlist trusted relatives to witness and support boundary setting, or seek individual support to process the aftermath. None of these are cure-alls. They are tools that help you think and feel more clearly. Professional help can provide structure for conversations that have been too painful to hold on your own. A closing affirmation. You deserve to be treated with dignity. You deserve relationships that do not require your constant shrinking to maintain. Saying, "I will not forgive this reflexively," is not a denial of love. It is an insistence that love must be reciprocal and respectful. Forgiveness is possible and powerful, but only after the harm has been seen, named, and responded to in ways that prevent its repetition. If you recognize one or more of these patterns in your life, you are not alone. Naming it is the first courageous step. Protect your boundaries. Seek the support you need. Give yourself permission to grieve what was missing, while also allowing the possibility of repair on healthier terms. If this conversation landed with you, subscribe for more reflections on relationships and the psychology that shapes them. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and in the comments, tell us which of the 5 points resonated most. Naming it out loud is the first move toward change.